All right, hi, my name is Dhruv Singh, and before I like to start my speech, I'd like to shout out my mother for that amazing photo on the side. She said a business headshot, and she took me aside after I got home and took a picture with her phone. So, all right, now on to the actual speech. When I started freshman year, for me, it was a new state and a new school, especially in a magnet school like mine, with roughly only 150 kids. There were only so many friend groups that you could join. Luckily, I clicked with mine pretty fast, and we had one major anchoring point.
Okay, is this good?
We made up the rowing club at White Rock Lake. Now, I was 5'7", 100 pounds, pretty unathletic my entire life. Rowing, an extremely physically demanding sport, was way out of my comfort zone. It was honestly the last thing I would have given a try before by myself. But I realized that if all of my new friends were doing it and I wasn't, I would quickly feel alienated. So I decided to try it out. I made the full leap and I paid before even trying it out. I was afraid of being excluded. Exclusion can drive growth. In the context of this speech, exclusion refers to factors that you can change about yourself, factors such as physical strength and intellectual capability, versus factors that you cannot. Exclusion is often associated with shame. People look at the person being excluded and think, why is that person being excluded? What is wrong with them? Everything is about how we can include everybody. I would like to share a different perspective, one that came from being excluded. Sure, it didn't feel good at the time, but in the end, I could see how much I grew. On my first day of practice, I carpooled with a senior and two of my friends. Now, in my head, I expected practice to be like a scene from Baywatch. I expected us to be running in the sand, watching beautiful sunsets, and rowing on a beautiful lake. I was very wrong. Our lake, on the other hand, has God knows how much pollution. I mean, the water's practically brown. And there are diseases that scientists haven't even discovered yet. Case study number one. Ooh. That was my friend Luke before he fell into White Rock Lake. As you can see, he had normal black hair, normal person. That was him after. His hair turned red. Now, after we arrived, I talked with the coach, and I could easily tell he wasn't super impressed. The first thing we did was a mile jog. I was gassed by the halfway point, and I was so out of shape, it took me everything I had to keep up with the rest of my team as we finished. What we did after that would come to be known as the most hated piece, a 30-minute 16 rate. A 30-minute 16 rate is 480 total strokes, and for lack of a better word, it freaking sucks. I had no clue what I was doing, so I got on the machine, and I just kind of went through the motions. I, as a result, obviously, did terribly. So the next day when I showed up to practice, my coach pulled me aside and told me I'd be a coxswain. The coxswain is the person at the head of the boat who directs and motivates the boat during practices and races. Now, at the time, I was told how lucky I was, because I got to hang out with all of my friends, I got to go to practice, but I didn't actually have to do any of the work. Let me show you my side of it. On any athlete, or on any athletic club or sports team, what really bonds the athletes is that shared pain. During practice or during games, you look to your left and you look to your right, and you see people doing the exact same thing as you and dealing with the pain. And that helps you push yourself farther. And that's also what bonds the two people. The reason I joined in the first place is because I wanted that bond. The second factor was stress. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to being stressed about life or whatever, your job. And in my case, it was racing. During races, there's 3 to 4 different boats, and they're at very close proximity at all times. Which means if you make a slight misdirection, you can crash. And crashes can be fatal, or they can be light. In my case, we held a tourney at White Rock Lake. There were 3 boats, 1, 2, 3. And of course, they put me in the middle. And as the day was really windy, the moment we started, I crashed into the boat on our left. Now the referee said, okay, it happens to everyone. We restarted. This time, I crashed into the same boat, except I managed to crash into the other boat as well. So I took 3 total boats out of the race. And at that point, they just said, "Doc, get off, you're not racing." And you can blame the wind, and I can blame the wind. But who the rowers were really pissed at was me, because the leader is always the one who the blame is placed on. And because they blame me, I blame myself. That day, I went home, and I thought about what I should do, because I knew I did not want to cox anymore. My first urge was to quit. But then I thought back to the reason I joined the club in the first place. Quitting would ruin the entire point of me joining. I joined because I wanted to spend more time with my friends and feel closer to them. It was that day I decided I would do whatever I had to do to row. Now, it was a long journey, and the one method that really helped me out was visualization. Visualizing, contrary to popular belief, is not just thinking of something, it's physically doing it inside your brain. Research of the human brain shows that the brain understands and accepts imagery as real-life action. This means whenever you visualize, you are tricking your brain into thinking you are doing that action. This can help prime your body in a way that can be extremely useful to you reaching your goal. Now, I visualize so many things. I did not visualize actually racing, because racing kind of sucks, but I visualized getting out of the boat after a race, with our legs wobbling, us laughing about how the race went, and us struggling to get back to put our boat back on the trailer. I visualized getting to spend the same room. I visualized getting to stay in the same room in the same hotel as my friends who were the rowers, because the coxswains stay in their own hotel, and if I stayed with the coxswain, my only roommate was a sophomore who really could care less what I did, and that wasn't very fun. Now, visualization can help everyone, and I think it's a tool that you should try to employ in whatever journey you're going through. Now, the next season was crucial for me. I did whatever I could to get off the cox seat. I ate way more than I should have. I worked out as much as possible. And there were 2 things that really drove me throughout this time, and they're both 2 sides of the same coin. One is that fear of being excluded, and the second is that want to be included. These both pushed me so far past my limits like I've never done before in my life. Finally, during spring, I texted my coach. Now, during this period, I had made sure my coach knew what I was doing. I made sure if he was in the boathouse, he saw me putting in the extra work. If I had any questions, I would always go to him. So he knew I was putting that extra work. So when I texted him, he replied with, "Yes, you could try rowing." Now that day, I sat down and I thought about it. I thought about if everything I had done was worth it. I still can't answer that question, but what I do know is that the growth I experienced along the journey was worth far more to me than the end result. It changed me as a person, and obviously, depending on your goal, it might be different, but for me, it completely changed who I was. Now, thank you guys for all staying with me till the end. If you can take one thing away from this speech, let it be this. The next time you feel excluded, don't focus on the negative emotions that it comes with. And don't become saddened by those. Allow those emotions to push you forward into growing. And I think that can really change your life. Thank you.